Have you ever felt it? That fleeting moment when the world pauses, and for just a second everything is still. The noise quiets, your heart steadies, and you catch a glimpse, a breath, of something rare and powerful. Peace. Not the kind of peace sold by vacation brochures or found in a perfect sunset. This is deeper. A raw, unfiltered stillness that emerges just after a wave of anxiety crashes and recedes. It doesn't last long, but in that sliver of calm you remember what it's like to not be burdened by endless worries, by the weight of to-do lists, regrets and fears. And here's the truth, that moment, it isn't a miracle. It isn't reserved for monks, mystics, or people who live in mountain caves. It's a state of being, one that the ancient Stoics believed we could train ourselves to access, even in the chaos of modern life. Today, stress is seen almost like a badge of honor. If you're not stressed, are you even trying? We wear our exhaustion like armor, rush through our days like time is running out, and fill every quiet moment with distractions to numb the noise. Deadlines, notifications, expectations. It's like we're all running on a treadmill with no off switch, one step away from drowning. But the Stoics would look you in the eye and say, no, you are not powerless. And peace is not some luxury you have to earn. It is a discipline, a decision, a way of being that doesn't require the world to calm down, only that you do. Stoicism is not about escaping life. It's about confronting it head-on with clarity, composure, and inner strength. And that's exactly what this video is, here to help you do. We're not just going to talk about stress, we're going to walk through it. We're going to trace the timeless path laid down by Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Epictetus, and others who faced war, exile, poverty, illness, and still found a way to rise above. Each chapter in this journey will be a stepping stone, a practical tool you can apply, not in theory, but in the messy, unpredictable reality of your life. These aren't abstract ideas for philosophers in ivory towers. These are battle-tested principles born from hardship. They're not about avoiding stress. They're about mastering your response to it. So let's take the first step. Chapter 1. Control what you can. Let go of what you can't. At the very core of Stoicism lies a kind of radical clarity, the ability to divide the world into two simple categories. What is within your control, what is not. It sounds obvious, doesn't it? But look closer. How much time do you spend worrying about things you can't change? What people think of you? What might happen tomorrow? How someone reacted to something you said, the job you didn't get, the outcome that didn't go your way. Epictetus, a Stoic philosopher who was once a slave and later a teacher, said it best. Some things are up to us, some things are not. This isn't just a line from a book. It's a lens, a compass, a way of filtering reality. When stress shows up, as it always does, the Stoics urge us to draw a boundary in our minds. On one side, our thoughts, our actions, our choices, our intentions. On the other, everything else. This isn't about being cold or indifferent. It's about stepping into your actual power. If something is within your control, then you must take full ownership of it. Your attitude, your honesty, the quality of your effort, these are yours. And when they're aligned with your values, that's where peace lives. But if something lies beyond your control, no matter how much you wish it, or otherwise, then your task is clear. Let it go. To cling is to suffer. To grasp at the uncontrollable is to invite endless tension into your life. This is not easy. It is a practice. When you feel overwhelmed, pause. Ask yourself, what part of this is truly mine to command? Am I doing my best with the tools I have today? Am I acting with integrity even if the outcome is uncertain? If the answer is yes, you can rest easy. If the answer is no, then adjust. Not with self-hatred or shame, but with the courage to improve. Let go of the wind. Focus on the sails. Try this. Next time you feel that familiar pull of stress, write it down. Then make 2 columns. Column 1, what's in my control? Column 2, what isn't? Be honest. Most of the things stealing your peace probably belong in column 2. Now, practice releasing them. Not because you don't care, but because you do. You care about your clarity, your energy, your presence, and you're choosing to spend them where they matter most. This is the first lesson of Stoicism. And it's the foundation of a stress-free life. Control what you can. Let go of what you can't. Let's keep walking. Chapter 2. Perception is power. We ended the last chapter with a clear truth. Peace begins when we stop clinging to what we either cannot control and ground ourselves in what we can. That shift in focus, simple but profound, is the gateway to true inner strength. But there is another door, and it opens not through control, but through perception. Marcus Aurelius, emperor and Stoic philosopher, who governed during plague, betrayal, and endless war, once reminded himself, "The things we suffer derive not from the events in our lives, but from our judgment about them." What a radical thought! Stress is not rooted in the world. It begins in the mind. It's not the traffic, the silence after a message left unread, the sudden bill or the sideways glance. It's the meaning we assign to these things. Our thoughts, unquestioned, unchecked, become the architects of our suffering. This idea is foundational in Stoicism, that our experience is shaped not by what happens but by how we perceive it. And in that perception lies our freedom. Between stimulus and response, the Stoics believed, exists a sacred space, a breath, a pause, a window of sovereignty. In that space, you hold the power to interpret, to decide, to respond with discipline, not impulse. You may not be able to change the circumstance, but you can change the story you tell yourself about it. And that story, it matters. A mistake at work can be a mark of failure, or a teacher disguised as an error. A betrayal may become a permanent scar, or it may become a measure of your resilience. Life does not assign meaning, you do. The Stoics teach us, every experience is neutral until our mind paints it with meaning. Every encounter is raw material. Whether it becomes a weapon or a tool is up to the craftsman within you. This doesn't mean ignoring pain or denying hardship. It means refusing to magnify it with imagined fears, harsh judgments, and worst-case fantasies. It means looking reality in the eye and asking, how can I interpret this in a way that strengthens, not shatters me? To acknowledge pain is not weakness, but to allow it to become suffering through stories of helplessness and doom is a choice we often make unconsciously. Training. Your perception means actively choosing stories that cultivate clarity, not confusion. Strength, not fragility. It's about turning chaos into curriculum. This is not forced optimism, this is intentional framing. To say, this setback is shaping me. To say, this pain is refining me. To say, this isn't the end, it's the test. When we practice this habit of deliberate meaning-making, we disrupt the downward spiral of stress. We slow the frantic narrative. We stop being helpless consumers of life's events, and instead become conscious authors of our inner world. And remember, perception is a skill, a muscle. It does not appear overnight, it must be trained with intention. Start by noticing your reactions. The moments you tense up, spiral, shut down, or lash out. Ask yourself, what story am I believing right now? Then pause. That pause is power. It is the moment you reclaim your mind. It is where panic becomes perspective, where noise becomes clarity, where chaos becomes calm. The Stoics taught this not as theory, but as survival. And every time you pause to examine the meaning you're assigning to a situation, you are walking the path they paved. In time, this habit becomes your refuge, a sanctuary you carry with you, no matter the storm outside. And so, we continue. 1. Step closer to living not just a less stressful life, but a more resilient, deliberate, and grounded one. Let us walk on. Chapter 3. Live according to nature, that sacred pause. The moment where you ask yourself, is this how I choose to see it? Is not just where perception shifts, it is where sovereignty begins. By claiming that space, we reclaim the throne of our mind, and from there, we begin to see clearly again. With clarity comes calm, and from calm arises power. Now, we take the next step on the Stoic path, aligning our life with nature. To the Stoics, living in accordance with nature had nothing to do with tree-hugging or returning to a primitive lifestyle. It meant aligning oneself with the truth of things, especially your own nature as a rational, social, and moral being. Stress often surfaces when we drift out of alignment, when we violate our values, deny reality, or resist the natural order of life. We forget who we are, we demand life move at our pace, we expect outcomes to follow our desires. But nature has its own rhythm. The seasons turn, the tides shift, the sun rises, the body ages, all without complaint. To live with inner peace, we must first accept the order of things. We suffer most when we expect the world to match our expectations, rather than adjusting ourselves to meet the world as it is. Our human nature includes reason, cooperation, virtue. When we live in harmony with these qualities, we live with strength and clarity. When we act against them, when we lie, avoid responsibility, or chase shallow pleasures, we create friction inside ourselves, and that friction becomes stress. Seneca captured this so simply, yet powerfully. We suffer more in imagination than in reality. Think about it. How many of your worries have never come true? How often do you replay painful scenarios that haven't happened, or lament over ones that already passed? The storms we battle most often are not in the world, but in the mind. We forecast disasters. We resist change. We insist on controlling the uncontrollable, and in doing so, we fracture our peace. But nature does not resist itself. It adapts, it flows. It bends and survives. So must we. Living according to nature means learning to accept that some things are simply the way they are and will never be the way we want. It means responding to life with rational acceptance rather than emotional resistance. It means acting in a way that reflects who we are at our best, even when the world is at its worst. You are not here to twist reality to your liking. You are here to align with it and act with reason, virtue, and strength. This is not passivity. It is purposeful engagement. It is the decision to stop fighting what is and to start flowing with it. When you live aligned with your deepest values, when your actions mirror your principles, life becomes simpler. You feel less divided inside. The inner conflict fades. The need to pretend disappears. The stress of living two lives, the one you show the world and the one you hide, begins to dissolve. You start showing up whole. You stop needing the world to be perfect. You start becoming resilient within imperfection. You stop chasing control. You start cultivating composure. Stress loses its grip, not because the world changes, but because your posture toward it does. You begin to float. Reflect on the last time you felt torn apart inside. Was it because you violated your own values? Because you were resisting a truth you couldn't change? Ask yourself this. What would it mean to live according to nature in this moment? Then act from that place. Not from fear, not from force, but from alignment. That is how you return to yourself. That is how you rise above stress. That is how you live free. Chapter 4. Practice voluntary discomfort, true freedom, the Stoics taught us, is not freedom from adversity, but freedom within it. And in the previous chapter we saw that much of our suffering stems not from life itself, but from our resistance to how life unfolds. Now we go further. We move from alignment to preparation, from peace through surrender to peace through strength. This brings us to one of the most surprising and powerful Stoic practices, voluntary discomfort. Why deliberately choose discomfort in a world obsessed with comfort? Because fear of discomfort is one of the mind's most fertile breeding grounds for anxiety. Our imagination, left unchecked, inflates challenges into monsters. It tells us we won't survive pain, failure, or loss, and so we panic. We freeze. We surrender to the weight of what might go wrong. But what if you walked straight into discomfort, on your own terms? When we voluntarily engage with what we fear, its hold on us weakens. As Seneca advised, it's wise to go without luxury from time to time, not as punishment, not as penance, but as training. A reminder to the self that you are more resilient than your comforts suggest. The imagined terrors lose their grip when we've stared them down, when we've tested their bite and found it tolerable, or even transformative. Because once you've endured hardship with open eyes and a steady breath, you carry that memory forward. And that memory whispers, you made it through. You no longer dread discomfort. You respect it. You understand it. You know that discomfort is not destruction. It is instruction. This practice is not about glorifying suffering. It's about dismantling the illusion that you need things to go a certain way in order to be okay. It's about severing your dependency on comfort, routine, and control. In today's world of convenience, we're rarely tested unless life forces the issue. Voluntary discomfort flips that dynamic. It makes you the initiator. You stop waiting for life to challenge you. You choose the challenge, and in doing so, you build a kind of mental armor, not rigid, but flexible, not cold, but composed, not numb, but deeply aware of your capacity. Simple practices can change your posture toward life. Skip your morning coffee. Sleep without a pillow. Walk instead of drive. Fast for a day. Take a cold shower. Speak last in a conversation. Do push-ups. First thing in the morning. Practice going unnoticed. Each of these moments, though small, reminds your nervous system, I can handle this. More importantly, it tells your spirit, I am not ruled by comfort. I am trained for life. With each voluntary hardship, you grow. You build trust with yourself. And you reveal to your mind that resilience lives within you, not as a last resort, but as a chosen way of being. And this, the Stoics believed, is the foundation of a life that cannot be shaken. So reflect, what is one comfort you can go without? This week, what is one small difficulty you can walk toward, not because you must, but because you choose to? Do it. And remember, the purpose is not to suffer, it is to prepare. Not to prove your toughness, but to grow your inner strength. Because the person who practices discomfort today walks into tomorrow with calm, not because tomorrow will be easy, but because they are ready. Chapter 4. Practice voluntary discomfort. True. Freedom, the Stoics taught us, is not freedom from adversity, but freedom within it. And in the previous chapter we saw that much of our suffering stems not from life itself, but from our resistance to how life unfolds. Now we go further. We move from alignment to preparation, from peace through surrender to peace through strength. This brings us to one of the most surprising and powerful Stoic practices, voluntary discomfort. Why deliberately choose discomfort in a world obsessed with comfort? Because fear of discomfort is one of the mind's most fertile breeding grounds for anxiety. Our imagination, left unchecked, inflates challenges into monsters. It tells us we won't survive pain, failure, or loss, and so we panic. We freeze. We surrender to the weight of what might go wrong. But what if you walked straight into discomfort, on your own terms? When we voluntarily engage with what we fear, its hold on us weakens. As Seneca advised, it's wise to go without luxury from time to time, not as punishment, not as penance, but as training. A reminder to the self that you are more resilient than your comforts suggest. The imagined terrors lose their grip when we've stared them down, when we've tested their bite and found it tolerable, or even transformative. Because once you've endured hardship with open eyes and a steady breath, you carry that memory forward. And that memory whispers, you made it through. You no longer dread discomfort. You respect it. You understand it. You know that discomfort is not destruction. It is instruction. This practice is not about glorifying suffering. It's about dismantling the illusion that you need things to go a certain way in order to be okay. It's about severing your dependency on comfort, routine, and control. In today's world of convenience, we're rarely tested unless life forces the issue. Voluntary discomfort flips that dynamic. It makes you the initiator. You stop waiting for life to challenge you. You choose the challenge, and in doing so, you build a kind of mental armor, not rigid, but flexible, not cold, but composed, not numb, but deeply aware of your capacity. Simple practices can change your posture toward life. Skip your morning coffee. Sleep without a pillow. Walk instead of drive. Fast for a day. Take a cold shower. Speak last in a conversation. Do push-ups. First thing in the morning. Practice going unnoticed. Each of these moments, though small, reminds your nervous system, I can handle this. More importantly, it tells your spirit, I am not ruled by comfort. I am trained for life. With each voluntary hardship, you grow. You build trust with yourself, and you reveal to your mind that resilience lives within you, not as a last resort, but as a chosen way of being. And this, the Stoics believed, is the foundation of a life that cannot be shaken. So reflect. What is one comfort you can go without this week? What is one small difficulty you can walk toward? Not because you must, but because you choose to. Do it. And remember, the purpose is not to suffer. It is to prepare, not to prove your toughness, but to grow your inner strength. Because the person who practices discomfort today walks into tomorrow with calm, not because tomorrow will be easy, but because they are ready. Chapter 5. Embrace the present moment. The person who trains through discomfort today walks into uncertainty tomorrow with calm, not because the storm has passed, but because they've built shelter within. Now we turn our attention inward again, to the one place where all peace begins and all anxiety ends, the present moment. The Stoics didn't use the word mindfulness, but they lived it in its purest form. Presence to them wasn't a luxury or a technique. It was a way of being, a deliberate return to the now. Marcus Aurelius urged himself, confine yourself to the present. Seneca reminded us, true happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence on the future. These aren't poetic phrases. They are marching orders for a still mind. Why? Because stress has a favorite hiding place. Anywhere but. Now it clings to the past, reanimating old regrets and looping what-ifs that no longer serve us. It reaches into the future, spinning worst-case scenarios like a playwright of doom, and our minds, untrained, follow willingly. We rehearse pain that has either already passed or may never arrive. We become actors in a play that exists only in thought, and while our bodies remain in the moment, our attention is everywhere else. But the present, the real, breathing, tactile present, is the only arena where we can live, act, choose. It is the only space that is real. The past is carved in stone, the future written in smoke, but the now is clay, warm in your hands. This moment is the only one where your values can become action, where clarity can cut through the noise of confusion. By anchoring your attention here, you reclaim energy from 1,000 useless narratives. You stop time traveling to places that rob you, and you plant your flag in the only territory that belongs to you. This breath, this second, this step. When your thoughts drift toward imagined outcomes or past mistakes, gently bring yourself back. Ask, does this help me live better now? If the answer is no, let it fall away, like breath leaving the lungs. To stay present is to quietly rebel against the chaos of overthinking. It is a practice, not a denial of planning or reflection, but a refusal to abandon your inner command. Post. To be rooted in the moment is to meet reality as it is, not as fantasy or fear would reshape it. The Stoics trained this discipline like a muscle. Marcus wrote in his journal daily, not to impress others but to return to himself. Each entry was a touchstone, a correction, a recalibration. His pages were not performances, they were anchors. This was not passive meditation. It was active. Attention, a decision made over and over again to stay awake, to stay grounded, because time doesn't ask for permission before it slips away, and anxiety loves to steal the only thing we truly own, this moment. Presence is not a one-time realization. It is a return to breath, to body, to now. Each time you catch yourself drifting and choose to come back, you strengthen your mind. Each return is a small act of courage, and as that habit grows, distractions lose their pull, and stress loses its voice. Living in the present doesn't mean we sever ties with the past or blind ourselves to the future. It means we give them their proper place. We take what sharpens us from the past. We let the future guide without ruling. But we never, ever sacrifice the present to either. Because this moment, alive, unfolding, unrepeatable, is the only space where strength is built, where choices are made, where transformation becomes possible. To live now is not to coast. It is to engage with intent. It is the difference between drifting and directing, between reacting and responding, between merely surviving and truly living. To be present is to sharpen awareness into action, to root clarity in calm. It means stepping into your day not on autopilot, but with deliberate breath and anchored heart. Every small choice becomes part of your character. Every intentional pause becomes a stand for your peace. It's choosing to exchange noise for meaning, busyness for purpose, abstraction for reality. So that when you look back, you do so with stillness, not regret, not because life was perfect, but because you were present for it. Presence is love made visible. And attention in its highest form is care in motion. So plan with wisdom, learn from mistakes, face forward with courage, but always return to the only place where life is truly happening, right here. This is where peace lives. This is where power begins. This is where your story is written, one breath at a time. Chapter 6. Detach from outcomes. Anchor in effort. All strength begins in the present. That is where clarity cuts through chaos, where your soul breathes free from projections and regrets. And when you bring your full self to the moment, even your hardest days begin to shift, not because the world softens, but because you become solid within it. Now we turn to a quieter, but no less powerful form of liberation, the freedom that comes when you let go of results and root yourself in effort. One of the most deeply ingrained beliefs that fuels modern stress is this: if the outcome isn't right, then the effort was wasted. We measure our value by success, our identity by metrics, our worth by external milestones. But the Stoics challenged this idea at its core. Epictetus wrote, "You have control over your actions, not the results of your actions." And in that single truth lies a radical shift in how we experience peace. We often give everything we have to a goal, a job, a relationship, a dream, and feel crushed if it doesn't turn out as planned. We begin to treat outcomes as conditions for self-worth. We believe that appreciation, achievement, and recognition are prerequisites for peace. But they are not. Peace does not lie in the applause of others. It lives in the integrity of your action. Desire is not inherently wrong. Wanting success, connection, and fulfillment is natural. But when these wants harden into attachments, we chain our emotional well-being to forces we cannot command. Luck, timing, other people's choices, and external circumstances. The Stoic approach? Refine your desire, redirect it inward, attach, not to the finish line but to the stride, not to what you gain but to how you move, your will, your character, your discipline. These are yours. This is not resignation. This is reclamation. You stop trying to control what was never yours and begin mastering what always has been. You free yourself from the exhausting chase of perfection and instead show up with excellence, regardless of how things unfold. Approach your life not as a contest to be won, but as a craft to be practiced. Let each task become a proving ground for your sincerity, your honesty, your courage. Let the reward be in the doing, not in the scoreboard, because when peace depends on results, it is always vulnerable. But when it rests in the purity of your effort, it becomes unshakable. You stop micromanaging every variable. You release the need to manipulate outcomes. You stop tying your identity to achievement and instead measure your life by alignment between what you value and how you act. Ask yourself often, am I showing up fully? Am I choosing what is right over what is easy? Am I anchored in my values even when no one is watching? These are the questions that dismantle stress. They replace the frantic hunger for control with the calm certainty of purpose. You stop striving for approval and start acting from authenticity. You release perfectionism and embrace progress. You trust that a well-lived life is not defined by applause but by intention. So today, shift your focus. Detach from the finish line. Reattach to the stride. Let the work be the reward, because in doing so, you reclaim the one thing no one can ever take from you, how you show up. Chapter 7. The Wisdom of Enough. When we stop chasing the applause and start anchoring our peace in how we show up, something powerful happens. We find contentment not in outcomes but in effort. And from this grounded place we step into one of the most countercultural but profoundly liberating truths of Stoic living, that enough is a virtue. In a world obsessed with more money, more recognition, more ambition, the idea of saying this is enough can seem strange, even rebellious. But that very rebellion may be the beginning of real freedom. Seneca wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the one who craves more, who is poor." These words cut straight to the core of modern anxiety. We are taught from childhood to accumulate wealth, achievements, status, as if they were proof of our worth. The message is loud, even if subtle. You're only as valuable as your resume, your bank account, your popularity. And so we run. We run toward goals that move every time we get close. We cross one finish line only to raise the bar again. We believe that peace will arrive when we finally reach the next milestone, but it doesn't. Why? Because the target keeps shifting. Even when we achieve what we thought would satisfy us, the feeling is fleeting. What once felt like a dream becomes the new normal. And the mind, always adjusting, always reaching, whispers, more. The Stoics urge us to pause, to ask, what am I really after? Is it the object or the feeling I believe it will bring? Often we are not chasing things, we are chasing states of mind, peace, security, fulfillment, love. But these are not held in the hand. They are cultivated in the soul. Abundance in the Stoic view is not about having everything. It is about needing less, about recognizing what truly sustains you and releasing the hunger for what doesn't. When we define our worth by external gain, we become trapped in a cycle of grasping. But when we define it by internal alignment, living with virtue, presence, and clarity, we experience a form of sufficiency that cannot be taken from us. This mindset invites us to look around and ask what already sustains me. It reminds us that simplicity isn't a lack but a refinement, that freedom comes not from having it all, but from knowing when we already have enough. In this light, contentment is not complacency. It is strength. It's a refusal to let the world's chaos dictate your internal state. It's the wisdom to know when to strive and when to stand still in gratitude. Let this idea sit with you today. Reflect not just on what you want, but on what you've already received. The breaths, the lessons, the still moments that go unnoticed. You are not poor for having less. You are rich when you recognize what matters and let go of what doesn't. That is the Stoic's wealth. That is the wisdom of enough. Chapter 7. The wisdom of enough. When we stop chasing the applause and start anchoring our peace in how we show up, something powerful happens. We find contentment not in outcomes, but in effort. And from this grounded place, we step into one of the most countercultural but profoundly liberating truths of Stoic living, that enough is a virtue. In a world obsessed with more money, more recognition, more ambition, the idea of saying, "This is enough," can seem strange, even rebellious, but that very rebellion may be the beginning of real freedom. Seneca wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the one who craves more, who is poor." These words cut straight to the core of modern anxiety. We are taught from childhood to accumulate wealth, achievements, status, as if they were proof of our worth. The message is loud, even if subtle. You're only as valuable as your resume, your bank account, your popularity. And so we run. We run toward goals that move every time we get close. We cross one finish line only to raise the bar again. We believe that peace will arrive when we finally reach the next milestone, but it doesn't. Why? Because the target keeps shifting. Even when we achieve what we thought would satisfy us, the feeling is fleeting. What once felt like a dream becomes the new minimum. The mind, quick to adapt, recalibrates and whispers, "What's next?" Like a horizon that recedes as we walk toward it. The promise of peace tied to external success stays forever just out of reach. The Stoics call us to pause and ask, what am I really pursuing? Is it the thing or the state of being I believe? It will deliver. Most of the time it's not the object we seek, it's peace, fulfillment, a sense of meaning. These are not physical possessions. They are inner experiences, and they can be cultivated without waiting for life to grant permission. No material achievement can replace the quiet certainty of knowing what is truly enough. Sufficiency, in the Stoic sense, does not come from excess. It comes from detachment, from needing less. Until we define what enough means on our own terms, the world will keep convincing us we haven't yet arrived. And if we don't question that illusion, we'll spend our days chasing shadows, exhausted and unsatisfied. Instead, say to yourself, I am exactly where I need to be right now, not as an excuse, but as a grounding truth, as an active affirmation that this moment matters, that you are not late, not lacking, not lost, that the journey is unfolding with purpose, even if it doesn't look the way you imagined. This isn't about settling, it's about reconciling with reality, making peace with the present as a meaningful chapter in your growth. Every phase, especially the difficult ones, has its place in your evolution. Even as you strive, remind yourself, This moment is not a mistake. It is a step. Detours often become our greatest teachers. Delays often carve out unexpected clarity and so whisper again, this or something better. Let those words carry your hope without pressure. Let them root you in presence, without passivity. Let them invite possibility, without the burden of control. You are not surrendering. You are standing in resilience. You are trusting that either this moment is your harvest, or it is preparing the soil for something that aligns more deeply with who you are becoming. It means living with open hands instead of clenched fists. Not giving up on your vision. Boo chapter. 8. Let go of the need for control from the wisdom of enough. We move to its natural companion, surrender. Not the kind born of resignation, but the powerful Stoic kind, the kind that arises when we release the illusion of control. Stress often grows in the narrow gap between what we wish to control and what we actually can. That space, invisible yet ever present, is where tension festers. The Stoics were crystal clear. Some things are up to us, and some things are not. The more we try to manipulate the uncontrollable, other people's behavior, the outcomes of our actions, the past or even the future, the more we suffer. Peace, then, does not lie in mastering every variable. It begins in mastering our response to the uncontrollable. Letting go is not defeat. It is a wise realignment. It is no longer a war with what is, but a choice to live in harmony with reality. It is the redirection of our energy away from endless resistance and into grounded presence. To let go does not mean you stop caring. It means you stop grasping. You shift from obsession to discernment, from perfectionism to participation, from rigid control to deliberate adaptability. Yes, you still plan. Yes, you prepare. But you do so with flexibility. You accept that not everything must unfold according to your design. You release the belief that every step must go as expected for it to be worthwhile. The Stoic does not abandon intention. They refine it. They focus effort where it counts, on thought, on behavior, on values, and they loosen their grip on everything else. This isn't weakness. It is strength channeled wisely. The kind of strength that knows how to bend without breaking. So the next time you catch yourself spiraling over something outside your control, a delay, a disappointment, an unanswered question, pause. Ask yourself, is this mine to carry? If not, set it down. And in that release, return to what is truly yours, your mind, your effort, your clarity. That is where peace begins again. Chapter 8. Let go of the need for control. From the wisdom of enough, we move to its natural companion, surrender. Not the kind born of resignation, but the powerful Stoic kind, the kind that arises when we release the illusion of control. Stress often grows in the narrow gap between what we wish to control and what we actually can. That space, invisible yet ever present, is where tension festers. The Stoics were crystal clear. Some things are up to us, and some things are not. The more we try to manipulate the uncontrollable, other people's behavior, the outcomes of our actions, the past or even the future, the more we suffer. Peace, then, does not lie in mastering every variable. It begins in mastering our response to the uncontrollable. Letting go is not defeat. It is a wise realignment. It is no longer a war with what is, but a choice to live in harmony with reality. It is the redirection of our energy away from endless resistance and into grounded presence. To let go does not mean you stop caring. It means you stop grasping. You shift from obsession to discernment, from perfectionism to participation, from rigid control to deliberate adaptability. Yes, you still plan. Yes, you prepare. But you do so with flexibility. You accept that not everything must unfold according to your design. You release the belief that every step must go as expected for it to be worthwhile. The Stoic does not abandon intention. They refine it. They focus effort where it counts, on thought, on behavior, on values, and they loosen their grip on everything else. This isn't weakness. It is strength channeled wisely. The kind of strength that knows how to bend without breaking. You show up, you act with integrity, and then you let the outcome go. You allow results to land where they may, without letting them define your worth. The Stoics were never passive. They were precise, focused, anchored. Their aim was never control, it was clarity. They let go so they could rise with presence in the moments that demanded courage, not panic. And let's be honest, most of our stress doesn't come from what's actually happening. It comes from our expectations of what we thought should be happening. It's not the moment, it's our mental resistance to it. That silent argument that whispers, "This isn't how it was supposed to go." But that script we keep writing. The story of how others should act, how events should unfold, how life should cooperate is fiction. It's the story, not the circumstance, that causes our suffering. We suffer because we're clinging to a version of life that isn't real. We hold tight to fantasies and imagined outcomes as if we're owed them. And when reality deviates, we feel betrayed, not by life but by our own attachment. But here's the pivot. When we release that mental grip, when we let go of how it should have been, we create space. Space for calm, space for clarity, space for emotional freedom. The pain doesn't linger. It doesn't harden into resentment. We breathe again. We return to what is, not what might have been. And in that return, we find a quiet strength, a peace, that opens its hands instead of clenching its fists. We become steady, not shaken. Letting go does not make you a bystander. It makes you an active participant, with eyes open, energy focused, and heart grounded. You stop fighting the tide and start learning to float with it, to move with grace. This isn't surrender as weakness. This is surrender as wisdom, the courage to accept reality without compromising what is right. In that kind of letting go, you don't lose power. You gain it, the kind of power rooted in presence. You begin to see what's truly here. You stop resisting and start receiving. You find richness not in what's missing, but in what's already present. And that kind of strength, it's not loud, it's not forceful, it's not brittle. It's the strength to be soft and steady when life is uncertain, to bend without breaking, to return to the present, not the fantasy, not the past, but now to this breath, to this choice, to this calm. Because the now is where real peace lives. It's the only place where power and surrender coexist. So today, just catch yourself in the act of gripping what isn't yours to hold. Then gently release and return to the clarity that's been waiting for you all along. Chapter 9. Slow down to live deeply. Once you've learned to loosen your grip on what you can't control, the next lesson is subtle but vital. Slow down. Not because there's less to do, but because only in slowness can you truly connect with life. We live in a world that worships speed. Hustle is idolized, exhaustion is worn like a badge of honor, and stillness is mistaken for laziness. We are told to push forward, multitask, sprint from one task to the next as though motion alone proves our value. But the Stoics saw this differently. They practiced intentionality, deliberate, present living. They knew that rushing through life often means missing it, that when we move too fast we stop feeling, we stop seeing, and without presence there is no peace. Slowing down is not a weakness, it is a return, a reclaiming of your most precious resource, your attention, because attention is the currency of life, and if you give it away too freely, you lose track of what actually matters. Slowness offers space. It gives you room to hear your own thoughts, feel your breath, and reconnect with your center. It invites reflection, clarity, and calm. In a world obsessed with output, pausing becomes a quiet form of rebellion and a profound act of wisdom. When you move slowly, you begin to act deliberately. You choose your words with care. You listen more intently. You pause before you judge. You respond instead of react. Slowness opens a window into your inner world, allowing you to understand your emotions, values, and intentions before they're lost beneath noise. Without that pause, life becomes reactive. Your actions run ahead of your values. You become driven by pressure rather than guided by principle. You fall into autopilot, checking off tasks, racing through routines, but never asking why. But in slowness, you return. You remember what truly matters. You reconnect with the why behind your actions. You begin to see beauty in the mundane, the way light filters through a curtain, the stillness between conversations, the texture of your breath. You build depth in your relationships because you show up fully. You give your energy without depletion. You work with integrity instead of urgency. To live slowly is not to withdraw from life. It's to enter it more fully. It's not laziness, it's clarity. It's the awareness that a moment is not something to rush through, but something to savor. That depth is more valuable than speed. That presence is more powerful than productivity. Life is not a race to the finish. It is a series of moments to be fully lived. You don't have to move quickly to get somewhere worthwhile. You only have to be present for where you already are. The goal isn't to do more. It's to live more fully in what you do. To feel your feet touch the earth as you walk. To truly taste your food. To hear, with presence, the voice of someone you love. To take a breath before you speak. To hold space for silence. To move with intention, not momentum. To speak with clarity, not just volume. To act with awareness, not just habit. To see your life not as a blur, but as a mosaic, each moment a tile, placed with care. So slow down, not to fall behind, but to return to yourself. In the space that slowness creates, peace is rediscovered, not given but earned through presence. Today, block off just 10 minutes. Choose one task, eating, walking, writing, and do it slowly, fully. Let that simple act be your reminder. You are not behind. There is nowhere more important than here. Chapter 10. Peace is a practice, not a place. Once you've slowed down enough to truly be in your life, what you begin to notice is something deeper than calm, something more enduring. You start to feel peace, not as a passing sensation, but as a state you can return to, cultivate, live within. And that brings us to the final truth. Peace is not a destination, it's a discipline. The Stoics never treated peace as luck or circumstance. They understood it as a product, a result of where your attention goes, how you think, and who you choose to be. It's not something that comes when the world finally quiets down, but something that rises when you do. Peace is a commitment, one you renew every day, especially when life feels chaotic. It's not fragile, it's forged in adversity, hardened by practice, protected by habit. You don't wait for peace, you train for it. You don't stumble into peace. You build it slowly through daily acts of clarity, discipline, and surrender. You nurture it in the quiet, when no one's watching. You strengthen it like a muscle, with repetition, awareness, and the courage to release what drags you down. You don't protect peace through perfection, but through return. Again and again, you come back to what steadies you. Every time you choose reflection over reaction, action over avoidance, compassion over assumption, you water the roots of peace within you. It's cumulative. Peace grows with every intentional breath, every mindful pause, every quiet letting go. A stress-free life does not mean a life without difficulty. It means building the tools to meet difficulty without being broken by it. It means you develop the strength to return to yourself, to your center, even when the world pulls you apart. The Stoics never promised ease. They promised fortitude. They gave us not a shield to hide behind, but a compass to guide us. They taught us to greet hardship with clarity and respond to pain with purpose. To live free of stress is not to live untouched. It is to live rooted in the ability to pause, breathe, reflect, and begin again. You learn to recalibrate when you lose balance. You return to presence when your mind drifts. You reset your posture when your principles feel shaken. You build a life not on preference, but on principle. Because preferences vanish under pressure, but principles, they hold. You construct invisible architecture within, of stillness, resilience, honesty, and strength. And when the world trembles, you remain upright. You become the still point in a spinning world. You stop wishing for the storm to pass. You become the calm at its center. Peace becomes not a reward for getting everything right, but a companion that walks with you even when things go wrong. It is not something you find, it is something you carry. A quiet, inner refuge built through presence, wisdom, and will. So start now. Build your own peace ritual. Something small, sacred, yours. A morning walk, a breath before speaking, a line from a Stoic book. It doesn't need to be grand, just true, just yours. Let it anchor you, let it remind you. Let it return you to what matters, because peace is not found, peace is chosen. If this message moved you, helped you slow down, or reminded you of what matters, let's keep walking this Stoic path together. Subscribe to Stoic Havenway for more timeless wisdom, practical reflection, and calm amidst the noise. Your peace is worth the practice. Let's build it, moment by moment, together.